Hi, everyone. Welcome to Hump Day Astrology. We have a few surprises this week. The first surprise is
Hello.
Rob's on Hump Day Astrology. No,
Yeah.
we're together. So we just thought instead of going to separate rooms and filming, we would just film together. But do not think this is a common thing. It probably won't be. It's way too convenient in our schedules to be at our own filming places. But for this week, it's fun. So hello.
So what's going on? Hi, I'm Rob Barnes of Astrology by Rob, hanging out with Susan for a bit.
I'm Susan Farmer from Astrology and Soul. The other surprise, I think, is we're just going to shift a bit, right?
A little bit.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
So why don't you go ahead and explain a few of the things you're doing so that we can get those out there, and we'll be real quick about those. And then I'll say a couple, and then I'm going to give you fair warning. I'm going to have you tell them about the conversation, what I woke up to. Well, I didn't wake up to it. The telephone call that came in, I was like, because you asked me a cool question. Do you remember? So we're going to give you time to think.
All right.
Go ahead. Tell, what do you have going on?
So the sale was cool, by the way.
The what?
I had all my products, all my services on sale for a bit. Yes. And that was really nice. So that's over, but who knows when I'll do another one. So my next thing up is my monthly astrology study group. So that'll take place on the 13th, which is a Thursday night, and then will be every second Thursday night of the month going forward.
Sweet.
So, and for those who don't know what it is, come study with us. That's what it is. It's not like I'm teaching a class or anything. It's just a group of people. A lot of them have taken my classes, some haven't, and we get together and we talk through your chart. So whoever shows up, we talk through your chart. We're going to be focusing on one planet a month. This month, it'll be the sun. So it's a great place to start. Happens every month, new planet. So those are the big things that are happening for me personally.
Cool. Do it. Like what?
I was going to say, why don't you talk about your stuff? I got to turn my phone off.
Okay. Well, he's turning his phone off. I think the biggest thing I have going on right now is charging stuff. And I'm about I think the deadline's the 30th. So what is that, like in 3 days? If you want something with your name attached to your product that I'm charging, and it's a really cool, it goes along with next July 17th, this coming new moon in Cancer. I'm super excited. It's about like stripping your emotional, the first step. It's going to be in steps like stripping what you're emotionally attached to, bringing in new ways of doing stuff, and then slowly becoming this sovereign heart. Like, what do I want? How am I going to do that? How can I love, have more compassion, maturity? Because we're going to be going through a Venus retrograde at the same time. So Venus retrogrades a couple days. It is stationed in the sky during the new moon, going retrograde a couple days later. And so I wanted to make sure I gave us a strong Venus help along with emotional help and that kind of Leo kingship. How do I want to rule? So it's 30% off right now if you get that in and get your stuff in. I'm going to be doing, also I'm going to talk super fast. I told Rob we have to talk super fast about this. I'm going to be doing a tree agate stone with it as well, because that is a heart chakra stone and a like maturity and sovereignty and stuff like that. So you can get a rock or a bracelet. Okay, done. 30%.
Cool.
Yes. So it was an interesting morning because I keep wanting to say woke up. That's not what happened. I was deep in my morning. I do a meditation thing in the morning where I really try to go into myself, and it was not a pleasant one. because I just feel angsty today. And then Rob called and he asked me a question. Do you remember the question at all? He asked me what my favorite astrology thing was this past week.
Ah.
And we both had very different questions. And so I think we've just decided to explore those. Do you want to say a little more about that?
You want me to get into background?
Yes, do
All right.
whatever.
So typically on our Hump Day Astrology, or the way that we've set this up, we've decided to just talk about transits. And transits are cool, but they're more cool if they're personalized. And so one of the challenges I have about talking about transits globally is like, well, who's it going to affect? I mean, it's fun to listen to other shows and other astrologers talk about things, and some are wonderful at being able to really delineate, some sort of transit or the philosophies behind it and history and all this different kind of stuff. Amazing. But at the end of listening to those, I'm still like, and did I feel the Mars square Uranus last week? No, I didn't. And so here I'm trying to get, some enthusiasm about some transit to talk about it when I just don't believe it's going to affect everybody. And so I called Susan and said, all right, let's have this conversation again. And so I kind of led it, I guess, with the idea of what was your favorite part of astrology this week?
And yeah, can I say, like, I surprised him with it actually was a transit, which I don't think he realized, which to me is super awesome as we are sharing this. And it shows how differently we're all wired.
Every time you look at me, you blur out, just so you know.
I'm going to keep looking.
Okay.
I'm gone. I'm here. I'm gone.
Okay.
So I have to do this. It was a transit because I literally was going through my morning the day the sun went into Cancer. It was just but I've always said, I feel them. I feel the transits. So of course I love the transits. So I'm pulling Rob's teeth, making us talk about transits. We may shake that up a bit in the show or, do other ones, because I'm walking through my bedroom and I'm getting that feeling I talk about a lot, which is like, I feel weird. What's going on? Something's off. I don't know what to do. I'm just feeling this buzz. It was a nice buzz. I pulled up a chart of the moment and the sun was at like 29.59 Gemini. I'm like, oh, the sun's about to go into Cancer. So I just sat down on my couch and just thought, let me just sit here for a minute and feel into it. So I did, and just thought about Cancer and the archetype, Gemini and the archetype and all these different things. And 2 minutes later, I'm like, that feels like a shift a little bit. So, and plus I know timing of things. So I pulled up the chart of the moment and the sun was at 0 degrees Cancer.
Cross that
invisible line. The invisible line in the sky that I always mock. And it was just a really cool moment for me. It was very spiritual. It made me, I had been thinking about the archetype of Cancer the night before, thinking about all these different things. I had watched a cool video on it. And then I've never had that experience where I felt the exact moment and sat down and just thought, now what we'll do in my life, I have no idea. It was a cool experience. So I told Rob that, and then I said, what was yours?
And my answer was pretty much, I just like our conversations about astrology. So, we're taking some trainings. We've been doing some classes. You've got some classes you're doing. I got classes I'm doing. Some things overlap. So we're studying some similar topics, and we do some study together. And that was kind of one of the highlights of my week. So things that we're learning are things that I love and that I'm passionate about, and that it's fun to talk about and joke and kid, because some of the things that some of the charts that we pull and stuff like that. So
yeah, I now correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like we take our classes that we're individually taking some classes, we're co-taking some classes, but we take the classes we're taking individually and teach each other what we've learned, because that's one of the best ways to learn it. And we kind of do joint study. So
she's coming to the dark side.
I'm integrating the dark side.
Okay.
You have to integrate the dark with the light, right?
For a long time, since we've done, since we've known each other, yeah, we've had different philosophies on astrology, and I've enjoyed the Hellenistic tradition, the traditional traditions, and you've enjoyed more of the psychological, modern traditions. And so it used to be, I'd say Saturn's bad, and you'd come up with Saturn's, like, I'm trying to think of what you'd say.
Timing, maturity,
hard work. Mars is courage and stuff. And I'm like, no, Mars is bad. And so, not that those things have changed, but the understanding and experience of some of these things, and things that we've learned, and the way that they work in charts is, according to some of these different traditions, is fabulous. And so
yes,
it's fun to talk about those things and poke and kid, along the way.
Which is brought up like the classes, right? Because I do think, and I do still think Mars is courage after you've been messed with,
pummeled.
So what I feel like is happening for me with the Hellenistic viewpoint is it's enriching my ability to fill the whole archetype.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, so I have an astrology group that I discuss things with like once a month. And what I really found in that group is I started leading some discussions saying, what's good in Pluto, what's bad in Pluto, what's good in Capricorn, what's bad in Capricorn, with some different, I think Saturn was going into Pisces. So we went into those. And what I found, it was a ways back, that there is like everything good is bad and everything bad is good, honestly. So like with Mars, it can cause fighting, like it really can. It caused me, like I get angsty and frustrated and angry. Then I'm like, but so I started going to pros and cons. So let's say pros and cons, because people in the group are really uncomfortable with bad, right? Which I think there is bad. There's good and bad. Anyway, so that fighting, that angsty, that all of that can really push us to like, well, how can we take some steps to create something or go after something or even realize something? And that is a good. So it's like, how do you say it? And yeah, but Rob's right. I am taking the Hellenistic tradition and really, I feel like deepening my astrology with it, and it feels good.
See, Bernadette Brady has a book about predictive methods, and it's part of the title is The Eagle and the Lark, and which, we started reading it, and the eagle basically stands for your technical abilities in astrology, the math, as sometimes I call it. And the lark was more of the intuitive side. And so the whole idea was that the lark had a beautiful voice, but couldn't get to the gods because it couldn't fly that high. The eagle could fly high, but didn't have the same voice. So if they teamed up together, the lark could ride on the eagle's wings or shoulders, and then the eagle could take it up to the gods and the lark could sing. And so using both of them together was cool. And so, and then we thoroughly enjoyed the book. Very, very informative, good stuff. So that's, some things that we've kind of been playing with and teasing, oh, that's so larky of you,
Yeah.
hope it's not bull-larky, but some fun, like, and so you were so focused on the lark and I was so focused on the eagle that, it's been fun to kind of over time, work on both and have the math down, have all these things figured out. And then what can the intuition do to enhance that?
Right. And I started more with the intuition, and because I could just do that. I didn't know what I was doing, honestly. And then working backwards to the math and the structure. And I
The
like
whys,
it.
yeah.
The whys. And I do enjoy that. I had a thought. Well, and I think too, for me, like life takes us through, here I go to philosophical modernness. Life takes us through so many ups and downs. And I really did start and was kind of pushed towards astrology at a time in my life where I couldn't handle negative. I just couldn't even take it because there were such negative, hard things I was trying. So I kind of had to concentrate on, well, what's the pro? Okay, this is happening. Mars is happening. How can I have courage? Or Saturn, it's just going to take me time. Or Venus, this feels really good, stuff like that. And then as time went on with my personal transits, my chart got hit hard. And I almost feel like sometimes in our woo-woo-y society, we want to forget there are hard things. And I feel like, so you can say that you don't believe this if you want, as I'm looking at you and I go out. Sometimes I feel like when people have hard things going on in their life, they're shamed. And I felt like that my last few years. Like people would say, like, well, be positive. I'm not, or be positive, or can't you look at the good, or like, kind of like, are you just going to get caught up in that only? And it's like, yeah, I am. Like, that's where I'm at. Don't shame me. So to take, and I do have that Uranus in the first house, which is like, if you tell me not to get caught up in him, I'm going to be like, oh, I'm going to get caught up in him. Like, don't tell me what to do.
Just had to hide the eye roll. When you know someone's chart really well and you can see them living their chart really well. I mean, like when I do sessions with couples and stuff, and I can see their stuff, they're both their charts, and teach them about each other and themselves. Totally awesome. So she has a Uranus in the first.
Yeah. So.
And cool, because you're not just going to take someone's word for anything. You are going to prove it or test it, or
Yeah, I absolutely, even though they made rules 5 billion years ago, I'm not going to be like, okay. So these hard transits in my life that I couldn't explain through light and love. We always get, I feel like hard things do bring us good. I'm still trying to figure out what those are, but they'll come. And the rules. So diving into some of Rob's stuff, the rules, and the end, I love it when someone can explain the reason behind it. Like if there's a good logical reason behind it, not just it's bad.
It's brown.
Yeah, someone told me, we did a class once, I'm not grabbing you. And it kind of makes sense, but not good enough for me, where I'm like, so why is Mars bad? Like, give me a good reason. And they're like, it's brown. Like
Saturn's brown, Mars is orange, red.
Yeah,
so they're not white.
So I'm like, that's not going to work for me. Not going to work. So just going through some of the other things, and Rob's explanations, I feel like are always really good, and he'll bring me knowledge, and then tracking some stuff. I like the structure. The structure makes me feel good. I'll always bring my archetypes and how can we come to both? And I still don't know if I believe something's just bad because it's in a sign. I feel like it may struggle bringing some of the easier qualities to it. So if we wanted to find that as bad, that's fine.
And what's that called?
Detriment and fall. Is that right?
Those are dignities, yes.
Oh, dignities. Well, and I knew that, like
Yes.
you know them anyway, because it's like, okay, I have some of those, so it's kind of harder. Like Jupiter in Sag or Jupiter in Cancer or Pisces or whatever, it is going to act like taking on those qualities. It's going to act a little different than Jupiter in Capricorn. Now, I enjoy my Jupiter in Capricorn because I'm very structured and lists and can come up with these really thorough plans. I'm very thorough. My rugby job loves me because I'm like very thorough. I find everything. So, there are good things in them, but it's harder to really do that faith and hope and shoot to the skies with a Jupiter and Cap. So
yeah, it's simply, if depending on what the dignity is it a good dignity? Is it not so good? Can they do what they naturally want to do as easy or not, sort of thing. And so those were some of the things that we had talked about over the years. And, it's like, well, just because like I have a Venus in Aries in the 6th house, well, that's strike, and it's co-present Saturn. That's strike 3 for my poor little Venus, so does that mean there's no such thing as whatever Venus represents, love and all that kind of stuff? Yes.
I think probably, would you agree, my rebelliousness or my inability to jump on board is just when people only say good or bad.
Yeah.
If it's explained, I'll be like, oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
But I really have issue with good or bad.
Or someone imposing a will.
Yeah, funny.
So
I keep wanting to say, my parents sent me a text the other day because they wanted to schedule something with me I just keep loving this. I hope my parents don't watch this. That'd be bad. But bad. They said, check your calendar. That's all they said in the text. And I was with Rob when it came through and I was like, oh, now I'm not. I will not be checking my calendar. It's funny how you see those things in each other.
So obviously when we are doing our studies, we have these discussions, we have these philosophical discussions. And so I just thought, how fun to share different things that we learn and to process those, those learnings, in over a podcast or our hump day or whatever. So we talked about some things today and we haven't made some decisions yet, but we just thought we'd kind of open some things up and talk about more than just transits.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. We haven't really come up with anything for sure.
No.
Because one of our, can I share our fun horary experience?
Yeah.
It's one of our classes that we're doing is horary. And horary is when you ask a question, it's more divinatory, I'd say, with rules, right? Would you say that?
It's absolute divinatory.
But with rules. So Rob asked this question and we're reading this book, and weeks ago when we started, Rob asked this question and we don't know how to read it. We're just like, we think this or we think that, or I don't know, I've heard this, heard that. We've both like dabbled in horary before. So it's just really simple questions. Will I get the job? Is kind of a horary question, So as we're reading this book, it was so funny. He picked the perfect chart. because it's at the moment the moment you decide you're really going to ask the question is the moment you just cast a chart for.
Right.
And then there's a bunch of ways you read it. And as we've gone through this book, and was it Thursday? I don't know. I was grumpy and didn't want to do anything. We're like, well, let's just read this book. We spent the day doing our studies on Horary, and I giggled almost the entire day because every example the book used was in Rob's chart, giving him a very strong no. And I felt bad because I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm laughing at your no. But you tried so hard to make it a yes. And anything he would say to try to make it a yes. Well, what about this? Like in 2 pages, the chart would say, now, if you look at this, and it's like, the oracle knew you wouldn't just take a no. I had to give you 92 no's in this chart.
Yeah, which is fun because I mean, the author of the book that we're reading talks about the oracle, or
Yes.
one of the class. The oracle is the one who's going to be giving the answer, whoever, wherever this oracle
Whatever
is.
it
Yeah.
is.
But there's certain rules how you engage with the oracle and respect. You know, if I'm going to ask the same question every single day, then pretty soon the oracle is going to be like me and roll my eyes, and pretty soon just don't even bother. You know, and so part of the technique is, you know, are you just going to come up with something random? Am I going to be bit by a dog today?
Yeah.
You know,
Might be
random,
bit by a-
stupid, and you know, I could create a chart for that. My chart would probably say yes, because everything else is a no. So they can be. We're told, you know, we got to come up with questions so we can practice.
Mhm.
So my first question was like, well, this would be interesting, and so I asked this question, and you know, there's merit to the question. It's not like just some frivolous, stupid question, but nowhere really am I in a position to ask that question.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
obviously it's a relationship question.
It's
So
always a relationship question.
I got to sign.
And
I got to.
what are mine always? Financial. It's funny. So that's where our moons.
Our moons, yeah. My moon's in the 7th house, relationship stuff.
Yeah. So he's always asking relationship. And I'm like, do you want to hear my question?
So I already know your question.
It's always about,
money.
can I support myself with this? Or how could I form this to support it?
Right.
So it's so funny. And we're like, that's just interesting in itself.
Right.
The questions are important to us.
So our limited understanding, and whether we're right or wrong, you know, in some of these things, my chart pretty much came up with no times 5, you know, every way possible.
A horary chart can say no is in Rob's chart, which I'm sorry for that. Like unless you wanted to know, whatever.
No, it's just good
What's
practice.
been so cool is that the gods or the universe or the oracle or whatever you want to call it knew we were just starting this book. This was a couple of months ago, and we're a couple months in and we're still reading a book and learning about it. And in that moment of this, you know, we did kind of talk about it. Well, is that something, you know, I remember being like, is that something you really?
Really?
We're like, sure, you know, why not? And it has given us lots of examples and learning that, like 3/4 through the book. Are we 3/4 through the book, maybe, or half?
No, a
Half.
third.
Oh,
Yeah,
geez.
sorry.
A third through the book. We're still learning from this chart.
Yes, the perfect chart, because it gave us so many things. And like she said, you know, we'd be going through reading this, and I'm like, but you know, it's possible. Read 2 more pages. All right, so it's not possible.
And it would say the exact thing in his chart, like the exact thing.
Yeah.
Exact, which was
No.
like, I've had 4 kids, so I almost peed my pants. I was laughing so hard.
And the author's pretty funny too.
So sorry. Like, I'm sorry I'm laughing. And then I asked a question as well, a money question. Well, and I thought that's a complete no. So I can take that one off. It was relieving. So we're kind of joking too, like he's getting no's, I'm getting yeses. I'm relieved to get a no, even though I was open to either. And then the book comes in and
Well, you showed me.
yeah. Because
And
I was reading a different house
yeah,
than what I should have been reading, because it's very strict on house cusps, and if you don't get that, that's fine.
yeah. So I read it's like, well, this is a yes. There's a delay that we got to understand and figure out, and we'll probably read about that sometime. What can cause a delay or whatever, but it looked like a yes. And then she's all bent out of shape. It was a no, and a no is easy to accept, and I can just go on. But now you have to deal with a yes. Like, now I'm all messed up.
Now I messed up again. I don't know what to do. Because the yes to me in my world doesn't make sense at all. It just doesn't make sense.
Right.
So as I was trying for something and sat down with that question and just thought, take pressure off, just have a yes or a no, know what to go for, know what not to go for. It's fine, like whichever. And I was disappointed to get a no. I was like, oh, what does that mean for my life? But I got used to it. I was like, well, that's a relief.
Yep. Time to do this instead.
And it's so different, our personalities too, because Rob will do his charts with me or say, should I do this? Should I do this? As we're learning. Now I do my charts off on my own and share them in a few days after the privacy factor is worn off. And so when I finally showed him, I'm like, I got to know, this was my question. Because we're always comparing, we're looking at the examples in the book and then taking them to our initial charts. We have two initial charts. Now as you learn, you're supposed to do others, and that's okay. You don't just throw out willy-nilly questions all the time, but as you're learning, it's okay.
So was my last one a willy-nilly question?
I thought it was a willy-nilly, but I mean, you still wanted to know.
Yes.
Right. So that one brought up some frustration on Sunday. So much so I was so frustrated. I did and Mars was squaring Uranus. So let's just say says he doesn't feel anything, but Mars was squaring Uranus. And I'm like, instead of saying I have a hard time like saying I'm just really frustrated. Like, I don't know what to do with that. I just get mad. Mars. And kind of picked a fight. I was like, well, we don't even know how to read this. I can't even remember what the fight was, but I was like, just frustrated. Then he was frustrated. And I finally was like, just tell him what's going on inside of you. And I'm like, I don't know how to do this. And it's messing with my confidence. And
so this one,
because we got an answer super fast.
This one, I'll say what the question was. So this person that I went out with, said that she, I asked her out again, and she said she'd get back with me. And so hadn't heard from her yet. And so as we're just doing our studying, in my head, I'm like, we need to come up with more questions, because that's how we're going to learn. These other three questions that we've asked have been awesome for learning and really processing, because we'll debate, we'll fight, we'll get into it, we'll read. Good.
Yeah. I picked up the book Sunday. Well, I don't even think you're looking at it right. I read it.
Reading.
I'm like, yeah, you weren't, but it's still the same answer. Dang it.
So I asked the question. I'm like, okay, well, I'm just gonna ask the question. But we were talking. We got done with the talking, like, well, here's the question, and I asked it at this time. So should I put it now, or should I go back to the time that I first thought it? So we went back to that time, plugged in the question. Will I get an answer about a date this week? And the chart came back with something like, we don't know how to answer this one. So if you look at the technical information, it would pretty much, I would read it as a no. I'm not going to get an answer.
And I didn't know, that's going to be hard for me
Yeah.
because there were some really strong placements and it showed the flow for you, the asker, would be fast.
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't know how you can be so strong in this. And then the other participant is so weak.
Yeah.
How do you read that?
And when you say strong and weak, we're looking at aspects. So if I'm asking the question, and so I'm called in this technique the querent, and whatever I'm asking about is the quesited, I think that's how you said it, and that's whatever house the question belongs to. So in this case, I wasn't thinking a relationship, because that's the seventh house. I'm not asking about a relationship. I'm thinking about a message. And so I instantly thought, well, third house, that's the house of messages.
Yes.
So the ruler of the third house was Mercury. Mercury is in a great place. It's in the 10th house. It's angular. It's in Gemini. Everything about this Mercury said fast, on top of it, ready to go, good context. But that would explain, no, sorry.
Yeah.
No, sorry.
Like
You're right.
You can see
Right.
my face. I'm like, when do I interrupt and say wrong?
Wrong. Virgo chart was Virgo rising. So Mercury represented me.
Yes.
So all that stuff I said represented me. So the third house was ruled by Venus, and Venus is in the 12th house. So Mercury in the 10th, Venus in the 12th, they didn't even sextile. The degrees didn't sextile. The signs did, but that didn't really matter. But they didn't have a relationship. Mercury and Venus didn't have a relationship. So that would say no, as far as we understand so far. But the context was totally cool, because here the question's on my mind. I want to know its forefront. So of course that would be a 10th house context for me, and messages. This is why I even asked the question. And who knows what it represented for her. I just wasn't getting something. So 12th house, something not seen.
Right. And I was like questioning, well, why? Because in these questions, you really try to get to the why. What does this represent to you? What is this? Because this is someone, you said it was for a date. Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make
Yeah.
sure. And so that could be 7th house. I was trying to figure out, that's when I picked up the book. Well, let's read. So it was,
We're both wrong.
it was a message from someone else. So you would go the 3rd from the 7th, which was also ruled by Venus. So it gave us no more answers. It's like,
Right.
Frustrated.
Still stuck. So, and then we have another little sparring match, and we go through the day, and then all of a sudden, ding, the phone, and it's like, oh, I got an answer, not the answer I was necessarily looking for, but I got an answer, basically putting off an answer. So it was still kind of weird. It's like, well, then it can't be a no, because I still got kind of an answer. And so anyway, this was such a weird situation. And then one caveat, which is a rule that we have to find that we don't know, was the degree of the ascendant in the very first or 0 degree of the sign, which we believe, because I think you told me, we believe invalidates even asking the question. I'm like, God, Oracle, what?
Well, that's what yeah, you're going through our conversations. That's what some people that I've read are restrictions or something, strictures, I think they call them. To me, that just says it's really early in a process, because that is really early. And then the last 3 degrees are like, well, it's kind of overdone late. Some people say that makes the chart invalid to read. So here's another fight. I'm like, there's no chart that you just can't read. That is stupid. Like, sure, it might be early. And he's like, well, you're just saying that because
you got a Uranus in the first.
Yeah,
true statement.
Yeah, I still think it gives you context. You can't read it because why? Well, and then there was a Saturn in the 7th, which is also a stricture. Like Rob pulls every chart that has these strictures in them.
You'd be amazed, seriously. Like if I told you the questions that I'm asking and every single answer, the way these charts were drawn up, you'd think the Oracle hates me.
Well, the Oracle knows he has a hard time listening. and and makes every excuse to get around it. And so he's just teaching us that you can't, but it's still hard with the chart because you did get the message. The chart in both our opinions is kind of like a no.
Right. So we're like,
so
what?
that caused
So this is the kind of stuff like fabulous, because we are going to get down to the truth of how this chart setup worked and the answers.
Yeah.
And so this is the kind of stuff that we're doing that lights my fire and that I can be passionate about. I can come online and tell you Oracle hates me and dating sucks. And
maybe you should ask if you should stop dating. You might get a yes.
Should I get a cat? Ooh.
You'll finally get the yes you've been wanting.
I'm babysitting a cat this weekend.
Oh, awesome.
So,
yes.
So it's that kind of stuff that we talked a little bit. You know, do we get into this? It'd be fun, I think, and maybe you guys can give us some feedback. You know, some of these questions, some of the things that we're learning, and the drama of it all, and how things unfold. You know, it might be fun to go over some of that.
Yeah, what is interesting to you? Is it interesting to hear stuff like this? Is it interesting to hear the energies? I love the energies, the transits of the week. Because nothing really big happened for Mars Uranus with me, but it's because it was on my mind. Like there were a few times, like road rage can be a thing with Mars Uranus. There were a few times I drove a lot this weekend and was like, ooh, Mars Uranus. Like really, literally, it doesn't matter, Susan. You'll be fine. Calm down, slow down. They can be idiots. Don't get pulled in. Like I don't do road rage. I'm one who's like, well, maybe they're going to the hospital. Maybe they really need to get there. But my patience was I was like, gosh, just getting frustrated. And so it just reminded me, be more careful. Be more careful. It's okay. People around me are going to be stupid.
Talk nice to Rob. And not the stupid that she's referring to.
No. You probably got some of the angst though, because I was like in a rare form where I was like, this chart's maddening.
So I thought, in some of this learning and experiencing, we're going to want to take charts and sample charts and work things through. So I know I'm going to surprise her with this, and she's going to roll her eyes. But if you have a question you want to submit to us that we can practice with, feel free. Send us a question. Let us work on it, and we might get an answer immediately. We might not. It might take us a while. It might be something that we readdress over time. But if you're willing to play with us, that might be something fun, because otherwise I'll ask 42 relationship questions over the next week, and she'll just like, I don't know if the Oracle wants to talk to you anymore.
I feel like I have to find someone else to study with. So I ask very few, very, very few. That's another joke. She's like, you always get yeses and I get nos.
She's going to ask the Oracle, will Rob stop asking questions about relationships?
Yeah. Well, just, it's bad because like my attitude is like, who cares? You'll get a message if you get a message. Who cares?
Yes, but
it's fun.
But
But
the
then-
idea that it's a message. It's not so much relationship stuff. It's
Yeah.
something new for me. Let's talk about a message, still from someone, but it's a message,
Right.
which was something different.
Yes.
That was my
agreed.
logic.
Yeah, well, and we're supposed to be doing that. Like, honestly, we're supposed to be just throwing to a point.
Yeah, we don't
To a
want
point.
just seventh house or second house or whatever questions all the time. We got to come up, we got to broaden our horizons. There's a million different types of questions out there. So feel free, if you want to send us some, let us play with those. We'll engage with you. Some, we'll just tell you if we're going to try it or not, if we're going to use your question or not. But it would be cool. So email us or write it in the post. Yeah,
Yeah.
you good with that?
Well, now. I mean, what do I say
You
now?
can say no.
He's doing his seventh house. He's like, well, relationships, then he said, maybe, who knows? And I'm like, that's not making money.
Yes,
But it is having fun.
and practice.
Yes. Okay. Let us know what types of things you want to hear more about. If you want to know what's coming in the week, if you want more stuff like this, we may do a few different. I kind of want to do a few different shows where we get on and talk about, okay, here's our experiences with what we've learned this week. And then also a transit show, and Rob threw out there maybe a horoscope show, which I would hate. So it becomes equal. I hate something, he hates something.
And if you like live shows versus recorded shows,
Yeah.
you know,
That too. I would say together, like sitting together or apart, but our schedules,
yeah,
It's
if we
hard.
could do this, great. If we can't, it's just going to be,
I don't know, can we do live apart though? Is that a thing?
yes.
All
Yep.
right, cool.
So give us some feedback, see what you like, say what you like. And then we'll be back next week for more.
We'll see you next Wednesday for Hump
Right.
Day Astrology.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.